Adi, Assalamualaikum. What about my voice? Is it coming? Hello? Good, good. So, today our topic is related to kidney, oliguria. I think everybody knows about the definition of oliguria. One of the common symptoms that we confronted during medical ward. Even after surgery, some patient develop oliguria. Uh, Now the temperature is very high, so there are chances of heat stroke. So it could be the cause of one of the cause of oliguria. So, so what we can say, what is oliguria? Simple. There are actually no clear-cut definition, but different books wrote different numbers. But you can remember that less than 500 ml in 24 hours or less than 17 milliliter per hour in adults. Yeah, you are right, Sohan. But it could be between 300 to 500. Different books wrote different. Some books written like 300, some 400, and some 500. So therefore, I mentioned over here less than 500 in 24 hours. Or we can say less than 0.5 ml per kg per hour. 0.5 ml milliliter per kg per hour is also we called oliguria. And what the meaning of anuria? Anuria means no urine. Yeah, but definitely there is some quantity. It could be less than 100 or some books written 15. Yeah, Bisha, you're right. Less than 100 or some books written 50 or even in 12 hours 0 milliliter of color. And what is polyuria? This is also terminology, therefore I am including over here. The polyuria is a condition characterized by excess of urine, more than 3 liters over 24 hours. Good. So when such patient came to us complaining of oliguria or reduction of the urine, it doesn't mean that there is a pathology. Definitely there are some physiological causes like physiological oliguria. If your intake is less, like you are fasting, or suppose you are traveling and you don't drink. So what happened? There is a compensatory mechanism in the body, what we call RAS system, RAAS. What the meaning of RAS? Activate. RAAS. Who will tell me what is this RAS? This activate when good Mavish renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Yeah, everybody. So it activate, it conserve the fluid and by the absorption of water and sodium on the expense of excretion of potassium. So it is not always pathological, sometimes physiological. Pathological, definitely, if the shock is persist, dehydration persists, then it could go to the permanent architectural changes which may lead to permanent changes in the affected kidney. Okay. So how we approach to the case of oliguria? There are different causes. From we can broadly into three. What three? Pre-renal, then renal, and after that post-renal. Pre-renal, renal, and post-renal. So therefore, there are different etiologies of these pre-renal, post-renal, and renal. So we need to take proper history. We need to examine the patient, and sometime by some intervention, this oliguria could relieve, like in condition of post-renal obstruction. Any cause of post-renal obstruction? Yeah, please. Anyone tell me? Any cause of post-renal obstruction? Cancer of what, Busha? Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be a massive stone. It could be massive prostatic cancer right here. It could be lymph node. It could be stricture. Yeah, Bushra, you're right. It could be any structure after surgery that could lead to, even in the gravid uterus, sometime it could lead to. So therefore, history is very, very much important. How much urine per day normally? Normal urine output, how much? It is ranges between 1 to 2 milliliter, liter, or what? Yeah, it is between 1 to 2. And excess of this more than 3 liter we called polyuria. So when we approach to the patient, we need to take history, we need to examine the patient, and we need to, then we will go for some analysis. Milliliter, yeah, 2 to 3 liter, Mahesh, you're right. So history and careful examination of the patient is utmost important. Then following studies are indicated, like urine analysis, urine indexes, burn and serum creat, serum sodium, serum potassium, serum phosphate, calcium. We will definitely go individually. Although there are some other investigation. Suppose a patient having glomerulonephritis. And what the cause of glomerulonephritis? Post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. So there is a group A streptococcal that patient present with sore throat, and after 2 to 3 weeks, patient start to develop, mostly young children, developed renal failure or renal injury because of mimicry of same antigens, and therefore antibodies develop, and that causes post-streptococcal. So in which there is C3 and C4. These are the complement system. What? C3 and C4, they are reduced. C3 and C4 reduced. But there are some other conditions in which C3 and C4 are reduced. Anyone know? Yeah, it is most common in females, most commonly in young females, and having number of criteria like hair loss, like mouth ulcers, like thrombocytopenia, anemia. Anyone guess? In which C3, C4 reduce and kidneys are affected massively. I think, you know, S, S, L, E, which, what this? SLE, in which also there is C3 and C4 reduced, and patient present with nephritis, and then progressively develop. Yeah, autoimmune disorder, anti-nuclear antibodies are present, anti-Smith antibodies are present, and associated with C3, C4, and patient present with. Uh, then let's we go for with, with this. Oliguria could be pre-renal, renal, and post-renal pathology. What could be the pre-renal pathology? What could be the pre-renal pathology? Any idea? Any hint? Yeah, it could be reduce intake, lead to dehydration, hemorrhage, accident. It could lead to vomiting, diarrhea. Yeah. So any condition, heat stroke, excessive sweating. It could be also one of the causes of the pre-renal. So therefore, there are definitely, it would be different from the renal. Pre-renal is different from the renal and post-renal. So how we know from the urine analysis? What could be causes of renal? Any idea? What could be the causes of renal or intrinsic renal failure itself? Means intrinsic causes. Yes, intrinsic causes. Yeah, it could be glomerulonephritis, but why glomerulonephritis? Yeah, pyelonephritis, but it could be toxins. It could be drugs like aminoglycosides, like oncologic drugs like cisplatin, like amphotericin, like aceclopine. So this could also lead to renal failure. So urine analysis is a simple, rapid, and inexpensive way. We can easily differentiate pre-renal and renal. And when we check, we assess this urine, it should be a fresh urine, fresh sample, or we read everywhere mid-stream urine. So it should be better mid-stream urine. Means the between the urine, the between passage. So in pre-renal, a few hyaline and fine granular cast. These cast actually the tubular proteins. In pre-renal, so only few hyaline and fine granular cast may be observed, while very less protein, heme or RBCs. RBC and protein and heme where we will see in cases of renal, where we will see renal. But definitely in hemolysis or rhabdomyolysis, but the rhabdomyolysis? Rhabdomyolysis is a condition in which there is a massive destruction of muscles, like after taking cancer drugs or some patient fell down, then there is a pathology developed in that muscles. There is destruction of proteins and hemoglobin and RBCs, and that condition therefore we called it myolysis. So it comes definitely the blood will go or go to the kidney and it will filter through it. So we need to, the urine analysis therefore is important. We need to see cost, we need to see RBC cost. There are different conditions like acute tubular necrosis or tubular interstitial nephritis, in which there is a white blood cell cast and eosinophils are more. Similarly, in nephrotic syndrome, there are fat cast because In nephrotic, there is huge amount of fat loss through, but there is also hyperlipidemia in a nephrotic syndrome. So then urinary indexes, simultaneous measurement of urinary and serum sodium, creatinine and osmolality. We need to measure all of these things. Urinary and serum sodium, creat and osmolality. Osmolality means number of solutes in a fluid. Can help to differentiate between perirenal, in which the reabsorptive capacity of tubular cell and the concentrating ability of the kidney are preserved, or we can say also enhanced. Therefore, more fluid, more sodium will be absorbed. While in intrinsic failure, these findings are impaired because of structural damage. Means it is inversely proportional, or we can say it is opposite in perirenal and renal. We will see that in perirenal failure, urine specific gravity is high, more than 10, 20. It's easy to remember 10, 20, more than 10, 20 specific gravity. Normal specific gravity is less than 10, 20. So if it is more than 10, 20, it means why specific gravity of urine increase? Because more water absorbed in the tubules, therefore the concentration of solids will be high in the urine, therefore specific gravity will be high. Then ratio of urinary to plasma creat, because creatinine is secreted in the tubule. So therefore, it water is absorbed, remaining is creat, so creat will be high. And the ratio of urinary to plasma osmolality, therefore the osmolality will be increased in the urine. So therefore it would be 1.5, more than 1.5. Urinary sodium concentration is low because sodium will be reabsorbed. Renal, angiotensin, aldosterone system we already discussed. So it would be less than 20 milliequivalent per liter. While in cases it would be opposite, we can see that urinary to plasma creatinine ratio of less than 20, here more than how much? More than 40, here less than 20. A urinary to plasma osmolality ratio of less than 1.1, here is more than 1.5. Similarly, a urinary sodium concentration of greater than 40, because absorption capability of tubules has been lost. Therefore, more sodium will found in cases of intrinsic renal failure. Then fraction of excretion of sodium. The fractional excretion of sodium is the percentage of filtered sodium that is excreted. So definitely in perirenal it will be less. So it is less than 1% and greater than 2% in intrinsic. It is simple. You should remember this. Blood, urea, nitrogen and creatinine. So what happened to the blood, urea, nitrogen and creatinine? When tubules are preserved, so definitely there is more chances to urea reabsorb. Therefore, in perirenal condition, elevation of blood urea nitrogen level is marked, and the blood urea to creatinine ratio is greater than 20. Means more blood, if some patient having perirenal renal failure, then in that condition, blood urea nitrogen level will be more 20 times greater than creatinine. Then creatinine like 2, it would be 40. This reflects increased proximal tubular reabsorption of urea. And I think in physiology, you read different part of the kidneys, glomerulus, then proximal convoluted tubules, then descending lobe, then ascending lobe, then thick lobe, then collecting duct. So different hormone or different enzymes. even electrolytes absorbs and secrete in different parts. So the hallmark of established acute kidney injury is daily increase in the serum creatinine level, 0.5 to 1, gradual increase, and blood urea nitrogen level, 10 to minutes, it would be more than this. Serum creatinine level, you know that serum creatinine level are the, actually, this is the metabolism of protein actually, that should be excreted through kidneys. It should be, if kidneys are functioning normal, so there is it should be less than 1 or 1.1. But if kidneys start to damage, means their tubules start to destroy and non-functioning, it means serum creatinine filtration will be less or secretion will be less. Therefore, we know that muscle mass is different in youngs than old. So we need to consider it should be vary with age, gender, lean muscle mass, muscle metabolism and hydration status. So may not change until about 50%. Already I told you that when your 50% of the kidney function has already been lost, then it will start to show their abnormality. It means if it is more than 1.5 or 1.7, it means 50% of the kidney has been lost already. Your 50% of the kidney has been survived and 50% has been lost. So you should care about it regarding your patient. Then in electrolyte, most important electrolyte is sodium. What happened in kidney failure, hyponatremia is a common finding that usually dilution. It means because retention of water, so sodium, even sodium content was normal, but because of this fluid, it would become diluted, secondary to fluid retention and also administration of, if someone give excess of fluids, then it would be. So occasionally hypernatremia may complicate oliguria, acute kidney injury, and usually result of excessive. So because we know that when patient develop renal failure, so there are chances of acidosis, and in acidosis, physician prescribe bicarbonate. Sometime in the oral pills, sodamint that also contains sodium bicarbonate, and sometime in the sodium bicarbonate in the form of infusion. That will also sometimes lead to hypernatremia. Serum potassium. Serum potassium is very important electrolyte. Without it, we cannot survive. Even minute changes in its concentration would be lethal. Hypo and hyperkalemia both are serious, having serious consequences. Hyperkalemia is an important complication because of reduced GFR, reduced tubular secretion, metabolic acidosis. As we know that each 0.1 unit reduction in arterial pH, normal pH is around 7.4. So it will raise serum potassium by 0.3 milliequivalent. Means there is, when there will be more acidosis, it would be more toward the side of hyperkalemia. So 0.1 unit reduction in arterial pH, which high power of hydrogen, it would be raises the potassium by 0.3. Hyperkalemia is more pronounced in patients with excessive endogenous potassium production, in which there is, because we know inside there is more potassium rather than outside extracellular. So if there is hemolysis, if there is breakdown of the cell like in tumor lysis syndrome, so there is a expression of potassium, and this potassium will increase into the. So hyperkalemia represents a life-threatening emergency that must be immediately aggressively treated. I must say that if someone having more than 6.5 milliequivalent, so we should give, after doing ECG, we must prescribe calcium gluconate infusion. Then serum phosphate and calcium, as everybody know that phosphate and calcium having inverse relationship. If calcium is more, then phosphate will go less. So in renal failure, because of kidney having different function, we know that it not only fluid and electrolyte balance, acid-base balance, but it also works as a hormone secretion like erythropoietin, like vitamin D activation. Vitamin D activation is vitamin D3 called calciferol. Otherwise, there will be reduced the absorption of calcium, and parathyroid hormone will also not work. So phosphate excess is secondary to reduce renal excretion and can result in hypocalcemia and calcium phosphate deposition in various tissues. Hypocalcemia results from hyperphosphatemia because of impaired GI calcium absorption because of inadequate active vitamin D, already we discussed. Then ionized calcium can be estimated, ionized calcium, because in our body most of the calcium is in the ionized form, and it also depends on albumin. That is, assuming that 1 milligram per deciliter of calcium is bound to 1 gram of per deciliter of albumin. If there is low albumin or hypoalbuminemia, then ionized calcium will be less bound. So it will be more. So therefore, we can say it is the difference between the total calcium and serum albumin in concentration. Another important factor that acidosis increases the fraction of total calcium in the ionized form. Okay. Therefore, if some physician treated someone with excessive bicarbonate therapy, so it will decrease the ionized calcium. So it will lead to hypocalcemia, and you know that hypocalcemia can lead to tetany. It can also precipitate seizure or epilepsy and cardiac arrhythmias. In hysterical patients, before we called hysteria, but now conversion disorder, especially in young females, they are hyperventilation. When there is hyperventilation, excess loss of carbon dioxide. So therefore, ionized calcium will be reduced. Therefore, such lady can develop tetany-like state. So what's the treatment of that? Take a bag, like a shopper bag, in which patient can inhale and exhale their own air. So carbon dioxide will inhale. So such condition will improve. Then another function we already discussed, acid-base balance, excretion of bicarbonate and also volatile, non-volatile acids. Non-volatile acid, actually these are the fixed acids that are due to the metabolism of carbohydrate, protein and other. So impaired renal excretion of non-volatile acid and decreased tubular reabsorption and regeneration of bicarbonate. Bicarbonate in proximal tubule and also in lower part result in metabolic acidosis with high anion gap. High anion gap, sodium chloride minus bicarbonate and potassium. Normally it is between 10 to 12. If it is more, then we called it high anion gap. So we need to treat it. Another thing is complete blood count. As I told you that anemia could be because of erythropoietin, but it could also result of dilutional and decreased erythropoiesis. There are some conditions in which there is a microangiopathic. Microangiopathic means in the blood vessels, there is a hemolytic anemia with schistocyte. Schistocyte, these are the breakdown of RBCs. And thrombocytopenia are indicative of a condition we call hemolytic uremic syndrome. And also thrombocytic thrombocytopenic purpura, TTP. Patient with oliguria that is secondary to SLE may display neutropenia and thrombocytopenia. And patient with oliguria that is secondary to SLE may display neutropenia and thrombocytopenia. Already we discussed. Then another thing is imaging. Imaging either by ultrasonography or by X-rays or by CT or MRI is an give important clues. It will give the not only the anatomy, but it will also show some physiological work also. So ultrasonography provide important information regarding kidney size, like in chronic kidney disease, kidney size will be reduced. But there are some chronic condition like polycystic kidney disease, it will be more. If there is obstruction, like in the out in the urethra or in the urinary bladder outlet obstruction or BPH, there is the bilateral hypertrophy. So there is exceptions also. So it also shows renal blood flow. We need to check renal blood flow, especially in cases of hypertension, especially in the young. Collecting system and bladder valving. So this is a ECG related to hyperkalemia, in which you can say 10-50, then increase PR interval gradually. So hyperkalemia could lead to the prolongation of the PR interval, gradually. Flattening of P waves, gradually flattening of P waves. Widening of QRX complex. Look at here also. ST segment changes including ventricular tachycardia and terminal ventricular fibrillation. So therefore it is a case of emergency. We need to treat it immediately and we need to treat hyperkalemia. Another thing, if case is not because of pre-renal or post-renal, if because of renal causes and other pathology has been excluded, normally is it not necessary, but sometimes when we are suspicious of some diagnosis,